Brought to you by Penguin.
The White King, Charles I, Traitor, Murderer, Martyr. Written by Leanda de Lisle. Read by Graeme Malcolm. For Peter. Preface. Venturous Knight. Monsieur de Preux considered the request of the two Englishmen standing at the old eastern gate of the Louvre. It was Saturday, the 22nd of February, 1623, and Paris was labouring under a third winter of exceptional cold. De Preux, former tutor to the French king, no longer young, and perhaps his eyesight was not what it had been. In any event, he decided to overlook the Englishmen's wigs and false beards, nor did it seem to trouble him they appeared remarkably unalike for men whose names, John and Tom Smith, suggested they were related. One was still boyish, small and slight, his wig covering a high forehead. The taller man, well-built and strikingly handsome. De Preux simply treated them as two gentlemen of fashion travelling Europe as part of their education. As such, he was happy to introduce them to the spectacle of the Bourbon court, and, at its heart, his master, Louis XIII. The men walked past the musketeer guards in their feathered hats and livery of blue and red to enter the palace. The buildings of the Louvre were strung along the Seine like a mismatched necklace, ancient medieval towers with arrow-slit windows alongside new light-filled Renaissance galleries. It seemed you never knew what you might find around the next corner. Yet little could have been as surprising as the true identities of the Louvre's latest visitors. De Preux surely knew, however, or had heard rumours of the shocking truth. The older man was no less than the 30-year-old George Villiers, Marquis of Buckingham, Lord High Admiral of England, and royal favourite to King James of Britain. Still more extraordinary, however, was the presence of the second man, James's heir, the 22-year-old Charles Stuart, Prince of Wales. Although by some measure the smaller of the two men, Charles was an attractive youth, his long hair swept back from a fine face, and large eyes that turned down at the outer corners. His paternal grandmother, Mary Queen of Scots, was well remembered here in Paris. She had inherited her Scottish throne as an infant, and been the child bride of a king of France, loved for her beauty and charm. Widowed when aged only 18, she had returned to Scotland from France, the Catholic queen of a newly Protestant Scotland. As the senior descendant of Henry VIII's elder sister, Margaret Tudor, she had expected one day also to be queen of Protestant England. To help secure this inheritance, she had married a junior Stuart, who, like Mary herself, had English royal blood. But by the time Charles's father James was born in 1566, Mary's marriage had turned sour. Months later, her husband was murdered. The Protestant lords and their allies in the Scottish Kirk, or Church, accused Mary and overthrew her. Her baby James was made king in her place and raised in the Protestant religion. Mary sought refuge with Elizabeth I in England, but the Tudor queen instead imprisoned her Stuart cousin. Those who feared a Catholic heir to the English throne wanted Mary dead. Nearly 20 years later, in 1587, they got their way. After Mary's desperate plots to escape, she was tried for treason, although no subject of Elizabeth, and executed with a woodsman's axe. There had been angry riots when the news reached Paris, but in London, bonfires were lit in celebration. Charles's grandmother had not been the last monarch to fall victim to Europe's religious divisions. The fault line in Western civilization, begun at the Reformation, had sent seismic shocks across the continent, triggering rebellions, civil wars, and assassinations. Even now the aftershocks continued. Beyond Paris's Champs-Élysées, named after the heavenly Elysian fields of Greek myth, the political and religious map of Europe was shifting. Churches were in flames, and thousands were dying. The Reformation, launched in Germany in 1517, had been born in hell, or rather, in the question of how to avoid it. The Catholic Church taught that to gain salvation you needed...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?